Carl sat quietly on the bustling streets of Austin, Texas, blending into the chaos around him. Dressed in a tattered jacket barely holding together against the breeze and worn-out boots that had long seen better days, Carl epitomized a man weathered by life's relentless challenge. A small cardboard sign rested against his knees, bearing the words, "Hungry, anything helps," scrawled in shaky black. Life hadn't always been this way for Carl. Just a few years ago, he held a steady job at a manufacturing plant, earning enough to live modestly. But everything changed with a wave of layoffs. What began as unemployment quickly spiraled into unpaid medical bills and eventually an eviction notice. With no family to rely on, Carl was thrust into homelessness, forced to navigate life day by day. His world became a small, isolated sphere of existence limited to the few blocks he called home. Passers-by avoided his gaze, their hurried steps reinforcing his growing invisibility. Yet Carl endured, finding small ways to cling to hope amidst the rejection. The streets, unforgiving and indifferent, had become his constant, leaving him with little more than his resilience and a lingering wish for a second chance at life. On a typical day under the Austin sun, Carl sat on the sidewalk, observing the stream of cars idling at a nearby traffic. Among the sea of vehicles, one caught his attention: a sleek silver Tesla, its polished frame gleaming in the sun. At first, Carl thought nothing of it. Luxury cars were not uncommon in the area, usually driven by people who barely noticed him. But this time was. As the driver's window rolled down, Carl's heart skipped a beat. He squinted, leaning forward. Could it be? The unmistakable face of Elon Musk stared back. Carl blinked in disbelief, certain his eyes were playing tricks. Yet, there he was, the billionaire innovator, sitting just feet away. A wave of desperation and courage surged through Carl, pushing him to act. He shuffled toward the car, his steps heavy with self-doubt. Knocking gently on the window, Carl's voice cracked as he made his bold request. "Hey, give me a..." Silence hung in the air, and Carl braced himself for dismissal. Instead, Musk turned to face him, his gaze curious rather than indifferent. What followed was a moment of connection that would alter the course of Carl's life. For Carl stood nervously beside the sleek Tesla, bracing himself for the usual indifference or rejection. But instead of ignoring him, Elon Musk opened the car door and stepped onto the street. His expression calm and curious. Musk asked, his tone neither condescending nor dismissive, but filled with genuine interest. For years, he had been invisible to those passing by, ignored, overlooked, and dismissed. Yet here was one of the world's wealthiest men, standing before him, giving him his full attention. Summoning his courage, Carl repeated his shaky request. "I just asked if you could spare $1." Embarrassment flickered across his face, realizing how trivial his ask might seem to someone of Musk's stature. Musk tilted his head slightly, studying Carl as though trying to piece together a puzzle. He repeated, almost thoughtfully, before glancing at the worn cardboard sign Carl carried. "What's your story?" Musk asked, his voice calm, but Carl hesitated. Most people never cared to know his story, but something about Musk's demeanor felt different, empathetic. In that moment, Carl felt not just seen but understood, and what unfolded next would change his life. As Carl nervously explained his situation, Musk listened intently, his gaze unwavering. He asked thoughtful questions, probing not just Carl's circumstances but his mindset. When Carl admitted he asked for only $1 because it's easier to ask for something small, Musk seemed intrigued, a faint smile curling at the corners of his mouth. "Interesting," Musk murmured, almost to himself. "Do you think $1 would really change anything for you?" The question hit Carl like he hesitated, finally admitting, "I guess not, but it's..." Musk nodded, as if reaching a decision. Without a word, he pulled a crisp $100 bill from his wallet and handed it to. Stunned, Carl clutched the bill, his voice trembling as he stammered, "I don't know what to say." He reached into his pocket and produced a sleek, minimalist business. "Call this number tomorrow," Musk said firmly. "Tell them I sent you, they'll know what to do." Carl stared at the card, its simplicity belying its significance. His hands shook as he accepted. Musk met his gaze and said, "Don't waste this." With that, he got back into his car and drove away, leaving Carl with a life a chance to change everything. The next morning, Carl stood at a public phone booth, the crisp business card clutched in his trembling hand. Doubts clouded his mind. Was this real, or just a cruel joke? Swallowing his fear, he dialed the number. After a few rings, a professional voice answered, "Elon Musk's office. How can I help?" Carl's heart raced as he introduced himself, explaining that Musk had given him the number. To his astonishment, the woman on the other end responded, "Of course, Carl. Mr. Musk mentioned you. Can you come to our downtown office today at noon?" At exactly noon, Carl arrived at the gleaming office building, feeling out of place in his tattered clothes. Guided to a conference room, he found Musk waiting for. Musk wasted no time, sliding a folder across the table. Inside was a job offer, an entry-level position at one of Tesla's manufacturing facilities. "It's nothing glamorous," Musk explained, "but it's a start. A steady paycheck and resources to help you get back on." Overwhelmed, Carl accepted. The very next day, he reported for duty at the Tesla facility. Though the work was grueling, Carl poured himself into it, determined to make the most of this unexpected second. As Carl settled into his new job at Tesla, he began to reflect on the hardships that had shaped his life. The steady paychecks and sense of purpose lifted him out of survival mode. But he couldn't forget the countless faces he'd encountered on the streets, people who, like him, were trapped in cycles of poverty and despair. With every milestone he achieved, Carl felt a growing responsibility to give back. He knew what it meant to feel invisible, to believe that no one cared, and he wanted to change that for others. Using a portion of his savings, Carl began visiting local shelters in the evenings. At first, he brought simple hot meals and basic supplies, blankets, toiletries, and clean clothes. But what truly set Carl apart was his willingness to sit down and listen. He shared his story openly, recounting his journey from the sidewalk to a steady job at Tesla, made possible by a single moment of kindness. His words resonated deeply with those who had lost hope. For many, Carl's story wasn't just inspiring, it was proof that transformation was possible, even for someone starting with. Word of Carl's efforts spread quickly. Shelter staff and volunteers admired his humility and commitment, and the people he helped began to view him as a symbol of possibility. Carl's presence brought not only tangible aid, but also a sense of dignity and encouragement that many had forgotten. Over time, he built a network of support, connecting people in shelters with job opportunities, vocational training, and mentorship. Carl's impact wasn't limited to providing for immediate need. He was planting seeds of hope and resilience in the lives of those he touched. Carl's growing outreach efforts didn't go unnoticed. Months after Carl began his work at the shelters, he received an unexpected call from Elon Musk. "I've been keeping an eye on you," Musk said warmly. "What you are doing is remarkable. It shows true character." Carl was speechless, unsure of what to say. But Musk continued, "I want to offer you something more. I have an idea for a program to help people like you, once were those who've hit rock bottom and need a way back, and I want you to." The proposal floored Carl. Musk envisioned a workforce development initiative that would provide people in need with training, mentorship, and access to sustainable careers. It wasn't just about handing out money. It was about empowering individuals to rebuild their lives with dignity. And Musk explained that Carl's story and experiences made him the perfect person to guide and inspire others. "You've been there," Musk said. "You understand what it takes to rise." Carl accepted without hesitation, overwhelmed by the opportunity to expand his efforts on a larger scale. The program, later named Second Spark, launched with Musk's backing and Carl at the helm. The initiative targeted individuals facing significant homelessness, unemployment, or lack of education, and gave them the tools to succeed. Carl traveled across the country, visiting shelters and community centers to share his story and recruit participants. He also collaborated with local businesses, encouraging them to offer job placements to candidates from the program. The results were transformative. Over time, Second Spark grew into a robust network of opportunities, connecting thousands of people with the resources they needed to rebuild their lives. Carl poured his heart into the initiative, mentoring participants and sharing the lessons he had learned about persistence, humility, and seizing opportunity. As Second Spark expanded, Carl's impact reached far beyond the individuals he directly mentored. The program became a nationwide movement, inspiring communities to reconsider how they viewed and supported those in need. Carl became a sought-after speaker, sharing his journey at conferences, schools, and public events. His story was a powerful testament to the ripple effect of kindness and the transformative power of second chances. Under Carl's leadership, Second Spark not only provided jobs but also built a sense of community and solidarity among its participants. People who once felt isolated and forgotten found themselves surrounded by support and encouragement. Many who completed the program went on to help others, creating a cascading effect of generosity and hope. Years later, during the 5th anniversary celebration of Second Spark, Carl stood on stage before a crowd of program graduates. Among them were single parents, veterans, and former inmates, people who had overcome extraordinary odds to rebuild their lives. As Carl spoke, his voice was steady but filled with emotion. 5 years ago, I asked a man for $1, he began. But what he gave me wasn't just money, it was a chance. And with that chance, I realized something. No matter how far down you've fallen, no matter how invisible you feel, here is always a way back. You just need someone to believe in you. The audience erupted into applause. But Carl wasn't finished. What I've learned, he continued, is that kindness, when paired with action, can change everything. We all have the power to lift someone up. It doesn't have to be big sometimes. It's as simple as asking a question or offering an opportunity. In the crowd, Elon Musk watched proudly, his trademark grin spreading across his face. As the event concluded, Musk approached Carl and shook his hand firmly. "You did good, Carl," Musk said. Carl smiled back, his eyes glistening. "We did good." Carl's journey, from a man struggling to survive to the leader of a nationwide movement, became a beacon of hope for countless individuals. His story proved that one act of kindness could ignite a chain reaction of change, transforming not just one life but entire communities. Through his unwavering dedication, Carl demonstrated that resilience, compassion, and opportunity could create a legacy of hope that would endure for generations.